Tonight on Mac to the Future, don't clone your hard drive as a backup. Bad. That's bad. The iMac turns 20. Alex Jones can't tweet. And is Apple pushing everyone toward a subscription model for their applications in the future? Tonight on
This
Mac
is
to
what
the
we're going to
Future,
talk about.
don't clone your hard drive as a backup. Bad. That's bad. The iMac turns 20. Alex Jones can't tweet. And is Apple pushing everyone toward... Hey, I was just doing a countdown for Warren. How you all doing tonight? We have a somewhat of an abbreviated show. You know, I put this all together at the last minute. I went to the dentist today and got back. I had to have two cavities filled, and I had to arrange to have these back molars implanted. So yay for more pain and suffering for me. But that's what everybody wants to hear about. But what everybody also wants to hear about is Mr. Warren Sklar. How are you?
I am not at the dentist today.
You're not?
I haven't been for, I think I'm due. Come to think about it.
You probably are.
I am due. Oh, there's my big head. Ooh.
I know. Somehow or another, you're stuck down there on the bottom. I don't know how that happened.
Like if I look at my picture on the Skype window, I look nice.
Yeah.
And
Can you scoot yourself up a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's better.
It's like the window's lying. The window's a lie.
The window's a lie. And let me real quickly. There's my lower third, just so that people can see. I have one. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
We're right now.
More.
We've gone to a split screen, and you're frozen.
I'm gonna move back into the living room. No, I see. Are you there?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. But your screen is frozen. I do not know why.
That's probably a good thing. Yeah. There you go. Well, you know, like in a newscast where you just see the picture of the newscaster and the still frame and he's talking. That will be me. I am frozen. Look at that.
That is so weird. You know, this happened several times last week as well.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Hmm.
I'm trying a couple different things here, and I am not getting. I'm not getting you live.
Yeah.
That is, that's just like super annoying.
Do you want me to pause my call?
No,
I don't.
No,
right.
I'm trying to remember what I did last week that made everything work again.
I look like nope. Now I'm just a big screen. No, I'm a little screen again.
Little screen, big screen, little screen, big screen.
But it's like I'm like one of the the animated GIFs from 2002. It just kind of every few seconds it moves like a postage stamp, kind of keeps going.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know why this is doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is annoying because it now it's got here. I mean, there is a button here that says free source, but it is not on.
Well, I would try pushing it again.
I just did.
Then pushing it again. Just keep pushing it until I unfreeze.
Well, yeah, we could play that game. There, I can flip you. How's that? You're flipped.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I went for a walk on a winter's day.
So the question is there a possibility of me unfreezing at this? If we just continue on, or
yeah, I guess we just got to continue on. I don't know. I don't know what else to do.
It's not a horrible shot at me. So
no. But I mean, it does because you're talking at the same time. It just it's like Johnny Quest for so I don't know why that came into my head, but that's kind of what.
No, I'm thinking it's like the newscast where they have the weather, somebody from somebody's in some third world country and they just have the picture up of them, and we're talking to Barry Summers in Guatemala we don't have a live feed, but here's his picture, and here he is. I'm here in Guatemala.
See, and okay, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do something.
I'm not even upside down yet.
There, live in Guatemala. There, how's that?
It's Warren Sklar live in Guatemala.
Warren Sklar live in Guatemala. Anyway,
all right, let's just
we're gonna continue on. First story of the week is something I saw at MacMost and I'm not really sure how I feel about this. Mostly, I feel that somebody at MacMost is either trolling people or they need somebody to seriously go up to them and go, why? They claim that that you should stop cloning your hard drive as a backup. They say that time machine backups are better as they will more typically be up to date than a clone hard drive is done by Super Duper or Carbon Copy Cloner. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I was never a big cloner. Personally, I always felt pretty good with a time machine backup. I've only done clones for clients. If they're moving machines over, once in a while I'll do that. But I haven't done it in years. And to be honest with you, with iCloud Photo Library and iCloud Drive that syncs up to desktop and Dropbox and all those things, I really I don't worry too much about that either, because I could get my operating system on a Mac up and running without any kind of backup at this point, just using cloud services to come back online in probably 2-3 hours. So cloning is good for people who can't be down at all, right? Because you have a clone drive.
Which you can boot directly off of.
You can boot off, yeah. But you know what? They're stopping that, next year or the year after. That's not going to be possible because eventually they're moving to the T2 chip everywhere, and the T2 chip doesn't allow it. You can't boot off external drives anymore.
Really?
Yeah, that's part of the enclave. That's part of the security part of it. So
if your main drive goes down, that's built into your computer, you're screwed.
Yeah, pretty much. You got to get it because unless there's a way around it at that point. But right now, the T2 chip in the iMac Pro and now the new MacBook Pros, it's due to security. It won't let people boot off other devices because of that.
Well, we have a question from John Kressler who asks, what if you have no internet and no backup?
If I have no internet, I'm not in a rush to get my computer back up anyways, because what am I going to do with that? But if I have no internet and no backup,
yeah,
I mean,
aren't you then you're hosed?
But you'd be hosed with anything at that point, I guess. I mean,
no, if you have a clone backup and you're able to boot off of a clone, then you're back up and running.
Yeah. Or if you have a time machine backup on a hard drive, you can be back up and running too.
But can you boot from a time machine backup?
No. You have to restore it.
Okay. Well, if you...
So,
well, I mean, this is a circular argument.
Yeah. I mean, if you need to boot up a hard drive and continue working right away, then clone is fine. But, I always felt more comfortable reinstalling Mac OS and doing a restore from Time Machine. It's always worked perfectly. I've never had problems with it. It takes about an hour or two to do if I ever need to do it. And it works. If you don't have, my clone's better than nothing. Obviously, but I'm not sure what this guy's reasoning is. I'm looking at the article. They'll be more up to date. So, I mean, the problem with the clone, according to this guy, is that it's not constantly. Time Machine is set to automatically back up. Hold on, go away. Time Machine's already set to back up constantly, where a clone you have to do every so often. So
But isn't it better to have something than nothing?
Oh yeah, I'm not saying do nothing. I'm saying a time machine backup is better than a clone backup.
Okay, well, we're gonna have to agree to disagree there.
Well, what do you do? What's your take on this?
I personally would rather have a backup that I can boot from. If it, like, for example, when I went out to MacStock, the connectivity at the facility was, I mean, it was okay. It wasn't great. And certainly, depending on what hotel you were staying in, you may not have anything at all. So if for whatever reason your drive goes down, you could be completely lost and unable to do anything.
So when you go and travel, you bring all your clone drives with you and all that good stuff?
I usually have some kind of simple clone with me. At least because you have to remember, I don't have, like, on this iMac, I have oodles of storage. I have a Drobo. I've got a 4-bay unit. I've got all kinds of stuff. And this is being backed up to a cloud backup service, as well as using the Drobo as a backup, as well as using various other hard drives that I'm using with Carbon Copy Cloner. But with the laptop that I take, it's got a 256 gig SSD. So how much do I need to take? I've got a simple spindle drive, 1 terabyte spindle drive, and it's bus powered. So all I have to do, if something happened to the SSD, just plug the spindle drive in, and I'm back up and running again. Now, this is on a 2013 MacBook Pro. Obviously, it doesn't have the T2 chip, so there's nothing to prevent me from just doing that.
Right. So and then there was issues with APFS, with Carbon Copy Cloner had some issues. And,
sure.
I mean, Time Machine is Apple's utility right now. Is it perfect? It's not. But it's constant. It always backs up the current data, and you don't have to manually make a snapshot of it. But yes, you cannot boot off it. So if you need to be up and running within seconds, then it's probably a good way to go. Again, when they go to T2, there's going to be an issue with that because you cannot boot off an external drive at this point. You cannot even, they were saying you cannot even, when you hold the option, I don't know, when you hold the option key down, you know how you could boot to different devices? Yeah. I don't think that's even a possibility anymore. I'll look into it, but it's something like that.
Okay. Well, you're right. Why don't we move on then? Because I think we've beaten this to death.
Yeah. Go Time Machine. Team Time Machine.
Yeah, no, Team Clone.
Okay.
Team Clones.
Okay.
Yeah, that was me cloning myself. The iMac is now 20 years old. This is a story from Apple Insider saying that Apple's revolutionary iMac is 20 years old and still going strong. The iMac is sometimes labeled as the computer that saved Apple, but who actually was in charge when it was originally commissioned? Former CEO Gil Amelio has claimed in the past that the project had its origins under his watch, even though Steve Jobs was the one that famously introduced it at the, what was it? Was it the San Francisco or the New York Mac World in 1998? I can't remember.
No idea.
Okay.
But this is the first one was the
G3.
the blue.
Yeah, it was the Bondi blue one. Bondi blue.
Yeah. So that sounds right. I've seen them. I wasn't using them back then, as you well, you might have been.
No, certainly not the original Bondi blue iMac. I believe at the time that was introduced, I was still on a Performa, I want to say Performa 575, I think, which was that wasn't even a PowerPC chip. That was the beige tower. Yeah, I've seen those. Yeah. Yeah, that was a Motorola 68040.
I played with them too. I remember, had a job somewhere. I think it was at a school. I was working at a school, and they had a few of them in there. I'm like, what the hell is this You
Are
know,
you talking about the iMac, or are you talking about the
no,
old Performa
the
575s?
Performa thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it was running some kind of, I'm like, and I wasn't a Mac person. I was more of a PC person, and it looked
Right.
like a PC. I'm turning it on. I'm like, what is this voodoo? What is this on here? I have no idea what this is.
This is not my beautiful house.
This is not my beautiful Windows 3.1.
As the days go by.
Where's the calculator? I don't know where anything is.
Where's my start window?
Where's the
Or menu?
Not back then.
Nah.
But
no. Windows 95 had a start menu, didn't they? Didn't they have the bottom left start 95. Or go or whatever?
Yeah, but that Motorola thing was before 95, wasn't it?
Oh, long before. That was 19, because I remember when I got it. I got it at I think it was like a closeout sale at a Comp USA, if you remember those.
Oh yeah.
And it was just before the some of the original desktop G3 machines came out, because the PowerPC chip was introduced long before the iMac came out. So it wasn't like the iMac introduced PowerPC. PowerPC was just in the iMacs. So it was like just maybe a month after I bought that Performa 575, they came out with the PowerPC machines, and I was like, oh, I'm so screwed. Right. But I couldn't afford to get a new computer at that point. So right. I hung on to that for 3-4 years before I finally got what was my first PowerPC Mac? I believe was a desktop 300 megahertz G3, but it was extra cool because it had the Wings board on the back. And if you don't know what that is, I wouldn't blame you. But it was it had S video, not S, well, it had S video in, as well as composite video and audio in and out.
So the iMac was essentially the end of the cloned Macs, I think, more or less.
Sort of. Well, not really, because the iMac came out in '98, and they were still selling clones at that point. I think. Well, maybe not, because
they moved their chips. They moved the chip to the PowerPC.
Well, none of the clones were allowed, as you purchased them, to have System 8 running on them, and I think iMacs were using System 9. So it may have been. Yeah, you may be right.
I think it was around there where they stopped the clones, and it was kind of the end of the guy before Steve Jobs.
Emilio.
Wasn't. Who was the guy who sold Coke or Pepsi?
Oh, that was John Scully.
Yeah. So I don't know.
He was already gone long before then. Emilio was brought in to replace him.
Right, but John Scully, I think, was the one who started licensing out Mac.
Well, yeah, it was under his watch.
Yeah, licensing out to non-Apple hardware. So, yeah, and then they came out with all the other colors, and then they came out with the one that kind of looks like a funky lamp kind of thing.
Yeah, the G4 iMac.
Yeah, with the screen, and then after that, it was
floating screen.
Yep, and then it was the fat white one that looks kind of like the new ones now, but it's fat and white, and then they got the fat silver one. And now we're to the skinny silver one.
And now we're at the ones you can cut cheese with.
Pretty much, yeah. You cut my finger on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah. So I mean, the iMac has a long and storied history with Apple. Now I do know I did have some of the teardrop shaped iMacs that I'd given to my kids. So my kids had. They had a purple one. I think it was purple. Maybe they thought that was like ruby red or rose or something along those lines. And we had two different ones of that. We had one of the. There was like a almost like a slate gray one that was supposed to sort of be like, oh, this is the one that you want to edit video on. That kind of thing. We had one of those.
Kind of like the iMac today. The space gray.
Yeah. But the really significant thing about the iMac, and there were two things about the original iMac that just made people go nuts. Number one, It didn't have a floppy drive. People thought that was the stupidest thing ever. How could you not have a floppy drive in a computer? But you got to see who uses CDs on computers. I mean, seriously, nobody does that. The other thing was that Apple got rid of all of their other serial ports in favor of using USB. And the iMac was not the first computer to use USB, but it was the first one to use it in a significant way, in that that was like part of the appeal of the machine, is that, all of that stuff that you used to have to worry about, whether it had a PS2 style input or Apple desktop bus input or SCSI, or whatever, all of the various serial inputs that you had available to you back then, all out the window, and instead you had just this one input, which was they called it USB. That Intel had actually come out with it.
Yeah, and they still work if you find one of those Macs out there and you stick a USB keyboard in there, it still works. Now I've seen I worked at an Apple retail specialty store, and the guy had a museum of them, and I've probably seen dozens of different colors, and probably every single color they had, and the lampshade ones, and I played with them all, and they're neat.
Yeah,
they're neat.
We have a couple. Sorry, go ahead.
Fish tanks. People make fish tanks out of them.
Yeah, they just hopefully they take out the monitor first and don't plug it in. Or you end up with crispy fish. We have a couple of comments. Dwayne Harris says that he was using a beige G3 desktop back then. And Joe Kressler says that his first machine was a Quadra 610, which was kind of, as I recall, the 610 was kind of pizza box shaped, kind of like the old L series that Apple used to have, or maybe maybe I'm thinking of a different machine. But essentially there were a little bit of Apple history for people who weren't using them back then. The three main lines that Apple had, and this kind of confusion is partially what led to them having so much trouble. You had the Performa line, which was your entry-level consumer grade machine. Then you had the Centris line, which was supposed to be for people that are a little more professional, and then you had the Quadra line, which was the big iron for serious computer users. The only problem with a lot of these machines is that there really wasn't that much difference between them, other than bundled software, which led to some interesting problems for Apple resellers back then. And remember, they didn't have Best Buy. They didn't have
Apple stores.
They didn't have any of that. You had a bunch of mom and pop computer stores that were selling these machines. And Apple,
CompUSA.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's right. But people were being held, or these retailers were being held by Apple to sell a certain number of machines. And if you didn't sell that many, a lot of times they would yank your license. Right. So you would get, say,
it's still like that, but now too.
Yeah.
By the way.
You would get, say, 10 Performa 65/16s, and you were expected to sell those machines. Well, by the time you got them set up, got them in stock, getting ready to sell them, Apple would come out with the 6520. And the only real difference, no difference in hardware, the only real difference between the 65/16 and the 6520, and these are all made up numbers, by the way, was what software was on the 6520 versus the 65/16. The problem for you as a retailer was people would come in, want to buy a Mac, and I don't want to buy a 65/16. That was the last model. I want the 6520. When there's no difference other than software. And so this put a lot of retailers kind of in a pickle, in that they were stuck with a lot of older hardware, even though it wasn't really that old, that people weren't willing to buy at a premium price.
Yeah. Yeah, it still happens today. Similarly, but different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
There you go.
we're going to take a little break and listen to a quick ad for this great book that someone I know wrote. And when we come back, we'll have 2 more stories and we'll wrap it up. And then I'll see if I can get Warren's picture fixed here. I don't know if I can. So
it's scaring me. Like,
it is.
Me looking at myself like waiting to do something. But,
yeah.
Okay.
It's like, oh wait, let's see if I can.
Yeah. You know what? I actually haven't moved from that spot since. Yeah. I'm actually doing that on purpose. It's April Fool's.
April Fool's. Yeah, I don't know how he does it. He's
really
like a
like that.
ventriloquist. He's throwing his voice. We'll be right back.
All right.
This is Private Eye Macintosh, and I'm here to tell you about a book written about me and my search for the Maltese Cube. Yes, it's a fine book. I think you should get it. Quiet, you. It combines technology, Mac trivia, action, murder, suspense. Oh, just tell them where to get it. I'll get to that. Romance, film noir detective fiction. I can't stand it anymore. It's called The Maltese Cube, and it was written by my Mac writer and podcaster Guy Searle. Find it on Amazon. It's only $2.99 and coming soon to the Apple's iBook store. Don't forget, it's The Maltese Cube and so inexpensive. You know you're not in it, right? I'm in the next one, right? Sure thing, Louie. You know, this could be the start of a beautiful friendship. Get The Maltese Cube on Amazon and soon in the iBook store.
And we are back. And no, his image is still frozen.
No.
Oh man! See now,
Oh.
I can see you over here in the Skype window, and you're fine.
Oh.
But
Frozen. Yeah.
for some
right.
reason, yeah, this is not good.
Well,
for
you know what? Just take my window off of it and leave my audio if you can.
Yeah, I can do that.
This way.
So I'll just go right to mine instead.
There you go. People could hear me but not see me, and that's fine with me.
And I'm really sorry, everybody. All right.
All right.
Well, we're gonna move on to the next story, and
Let's do that.
this is somewhat a repeat of a story I talked about last week.
And now I'm naked, by the way. So.
Yeah. And then I'm really glad nobody can see that.
All right.
Nobody needs to see that one.
We're talking about this guy again. Huh?
Okay, Marcus says nobody needs a break from podcasting, not even listeners.
Okay.
I beg to differ, Marcus. I beg to differ.
Okay.
He says that his first one was a Quadra 660 AV. Was his first Mac. Still have one with the same freeze issues with the lid. Okay, I'm not sure what that means.
I don't know either. My
Okay.
first one was a Mac 2009 Mini, maybe 8 or 9. I'm fairly new at this game.
Well, you jumped in with both feet.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Okay.
The next
Twitter.
story is after Apple removes the InfoWar podcast from the iTunes store, and then of course Facebook and a bunch of other social media platforms then also jumped in and removed InfoWars. And then earlier, I guess it was earlier today, Twitter bans InfoWars for 7 days. This is a story on TechCrunch.
Yeah, he can't post. He could read tweets. He can't post or retweet for 7 days.
Yeah.
Is what we're doing. So
Well, it says here, while most social media has followed Apple's lead in banning the InfoWars podcast, and that's an important distinction, Twitter remained as one of the few social media outlets to allow Alex Jones to promote his content. Now, they too have given him a 7-day ban. Now, and remember that none of this is preventing Alex Jones or InfoWars from actually creating content and posting content. All this is really doing is preventing them from promoting it on these various platforms. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not like Apple,
podcasts certainly, yeah, but Facebook and Twitter is preventing him from using that platform completely.
Yeah. Well, they can't.
He can't tweet or post
right
on those. So, but I didn't know this either, but I learned a lot about podcasts in the sense that I always thought that Apple hosted them. So it's just a pointer. No. Somebody explained
it's an aggregate.
Basically, yeah, it's just a pointer to you can store it on any server in the world and just and point it to there. So his podcast is still out there. There's other ways to get to it,
including the app that is still available through
the
iOS App Store.
Yeah, but Twitter, the stupid 7-day thing, whatever. But Facebook and Twitter are kicking him off that site. That's completely. So,
a lot of people have tried to frame this as a First Amendment issue, and I hate to break it to them, but it's not. This is not a First Amendment issue because Apple, Facebook, Twitter,
companies,
all these various companies that would allow people to post content, including YouTube. I don't know why I forgot about YouTube.
Right.
These are all privately owned, and they're the ones that determine whether or not you're allowed to have content on there.
Right.
Now, having said that, and also keep bearing in mind that a lot of what Alex Jones and InfoWars has said is highly offensive to a lot of people, and in many cases has been very easily proven to be untrue. I am personally uncomfortable with companies like YouTube and Apple and Facebook and so many of these others to completely remove and censor their content or anyone's content short of. Now, the exception that I would make would be if they were calling for direct violence against another group. If all they're doing, and I say all as if this is makes it okay, and it doesn't. If all they were doing was saying, one group is better than another, and this other group isn't very good, and so on and so forth, the whole racial nonsense.
Yeah.
It's still not a direct call for violence, in my opinion. It's not good, and it's certainly offensive, and I can see why and how people would be offended. But to just go ahead and completely block them from having a voice, that it bothers me. It bothers me.
No, I hear you.
Yeah. So
here's my feeling about it, and I thought about it. To me, it's like being outside in public. If I go outside to a public area with a microphone or a megaphone, like some people do, and I start saying the things that he is saying,
you'd probably get your ass kicked.
But let's say I didn't. I probably wouldn't be arrested. It's probably not illegal.
It's not.
Right.
That would be if you took that megaphone and went to a street corner and started bellowing out whatever kind of nonsense it is that you want to say.
Yeah.
And then got arrested for saying that.
That's freedom of speech.
That's First Amendment. Because then it becomes a First Amendment issue.
But let me continue on.
Okay.
I can't go out there and say I'm gonna start killing people.
No.
Because right away that's
inciting a riot.
Or that's somebody will come arrest me. That's threats.
Yes. Yes.
If I go outside and I stand on somebody's lawn, they own the property, and start saying Alex Jones stuff,
then
that
you
is
could
legal.
Be arrested for trespassing.
Well, let's say it's TGI Fridays parking lot. Okay, I'm out there. I'm saying things out to people. I won't. Same thing as Alex Jones. I won't get arrested, but TGI Fridays manager might come out and say, "I don't want you here. Get off our property."
And then if you don't, then you could be arrested.
Well,
because that's still private property. Now,
I tell them,
that's where your analogy breaks down. Is that the moment you go on someone else's property to say all this stuff, then there are legal consequences to what it is that you're doing. As long as you are if you're on public property and doing this, then yes.
But if I go to TGI Fridays and I start screaming and the manager comes out and says, "Listen, you can't be here. You're not allowed here anymore." Okay. Mm-hmm. Or the manager says, "You're not allowed here for 7 days." Okay. I comply. I get off their lawn. I get off their parking lot, and I basically the manager doesn't call the police, and I'm gone. That's essentially Facebook and all these places are like Fridays. All right, and they can tell me to get off their property. Yes. That's what they did. The freedom of speech, I could go out into a public area and say whatever I need to say as long as it's not dangerous. The problem is obviously now that, Speaker's Corner. You ever hear Speaker's Corner?
Yes.
Okay. The problem is Speaker's Corner has turned into Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. In a sense where that's the best way to get your message out to people at this point.
Yes, it's the most popular way to do so. As the Speaker's Corner was typically just a corner that you could go to shout out whatever your opinion is. And people, as they walk by or if they're 2 blocks away, would have no idea what it was you were doing. Right,
but essentially, it was still in Hyde Park, and Hyde Park is one of the royal gardens, and it's owned by the Queen. It's owned by the Queen
or the royal family.
The royal family. So it's private property, okay, and they allow it. But they could have, or people can tell people to get off private property, and that's what's going on, and they're telling them to get out of the private property, and it's not freedom of speech.
It's not a freedom of speech issue. It's not a First Amendment issue.
Where it gets a problem
is a censorship issue.
It is, and if Facebook comes over one day and says, "You know what, I just found who's Mark Zuckerberg goes through some records and finds out that Steve Jobs, once slapped his mother." And he's like, "I'm not going to have anybody nobody could talk about Apple anymore," and gets rid of everything Apple. He could do that.
He could.
And that's, life,
it's his platform.
Yeah. People with beards. No more.
I don't know what you mean.
Yeah. But yeah, that's all I really got to say about him, other than the Twitter thing. I think is silly. The Twitter thing reminds me of the Simpsons episode where Lisa gets banned from the library. Lisa, you're banned from this library, and your children, and your children's children, and your children's children for 7 days.
Yeah,
it's a slap on the wrist. But Twitter's
honestly, they should have either gone all out or not done it at all.
Yeah,
because this is basically Twitter trying to please everybody, and when you try to please everybody, you typically end up pleasing nobody.
The story I heard actually is he got kicked off because he was using a tweet deck, something that publishes out a tweet in advance, or you could schedule.
You could schedule a tweet, yeah.
So I think that's why they said they
But that doesn't make any sense. Anybody can do that.
I don't know. That's what the story said. That's what one of the podcasts said. Yeah. Anyway, so people, Marcus, you're commenting about what?
Yeah, Marcus, you're wrong. I'm sorry.
Well,
he's not. And again, none of these platforms have anything to do with the government. It is not the government that is suppressing Alex Jones and InfoWars.
Right.
It just isn't. That would be against the Constitution. That would be against the First Amendment. These are essentially private platforms used by the public, and they can determine whether or not you're allowed to do whatever it is that you're trying to do on them. I said at the very beginning, I think that it's a mistake to censor people. I think that there probably could have been better ways to deal with it that, again, wouldn't have made everyone happy, but it wouldn't have been outright censorship, which is what Apple and Facebook and YouTube and some of the other platforms have done. Mm-hmm. But it's, what's done is done. There's nothing you can do about it. But Marcus, this is not about the First Amendment. This is not about free. It is about freedom of speech, but it's not about the First Amendment. And there isn't anything that the government could have done about this, even if they wanted to. And I don't think at this point that they do.
And he's coming back saying that he's agreeing with us too. He's not really stating that either. And I think it's a confusing topic. And I think a lot of people
mistake, this is the same mistake that people made with AOL back in the day. AOL is not the internet, but a lot of people thought it was because that was how they got onto the internet.
Right.
And none of these platforms are the government, but a lot of people seem to think they do or think they are because that's where they see all of their content. And their content disappears and they're like, oh, it's First Amendment. They're being censored by the government. No, the government has nothing to do with this.
Right.
All right. You want to move on to the last story?
Like you wouldn't believe.
Okay. Last story is Apple pushing developers towards subscription models and why. This is a story on MacStories.net. Apple has been is allegedly claiming that purchased apps through the Mac App Store and iOS App Store are on the decline, and as such are pushing developers toward a I have here a subsection model. That should read a subscription model, because a subsection model makes no sense whatsoever. I saw this and I guess it doesn't really surprise me. There's been, and a lot of it, I think there has been a lack, and it's not just iOS, and it's not just the Mac App Store. It's also Windows and some of the other platforms. I haven't seen, really truly innovative software from developers in a while. Everybody seems content to make the next Fortnite or the next portable movie editing kit or audio editing or whatever niche it is that they're going into. And one of the things that set up Windows and one of the things that set up the Mac were these amazing applications that let people do some really truly innovative things. And we haven't seen that in a very, very long time. And the tools are there. It's a question of, are developers willing to put in the time and the effort to, and I'm not saying that I could do it, because I can't. I'm not a developer. I'm not a programmer. I'm not a coder. But come up with something that is really and truly unique, that fits a need that people may not even realize that they want until they see it, and watch the people come.
10 years went by, and ideas, will trickle down. Yeah, they'll trickle. You got to expect it until something else gets invented and things like that. The subscription model, I think, is better for developers anyways. I think they would love to have a constant stream of revenue than a one-time purchase.
Okay, well, let me throw in a little conspiracy there.
All right, go ahead.
If everyone goes to a subscription model, what happens to Apple's cut? Don't they
They-
get 30% of that subscription model
I'm sure they
ad
do.
infinitum?
Probably.
Or because I know that with publishing, with magazines, the first year is supposed to be at the 30%, and then it's either on a sliding scale or it cuts down to a much lower number for the second year and onward, which is part of why Apple seems to be okay with not allowing you to have links in your applications or your content to go back to, the publisher's website to continue the subscription model through there, thereby cutting Apple out of any revenue at all. So do you think that this is partially, because I mean, let's face it, the biggest growing segment of Apple these days, it's not the iPhone, it's not the iPad, it's not the Mac, it's services.
Mm-hmm.
That's, that's Apple's, if you take the iPhone out of the equation, the thing that is making Apple the most money these days is not the Mac. It's all their services. It's iTunes and all the content that's purchased through there. It's iCloud. It's all of these things that Apple has created that allows you to do various things through iOS devices and the Mac. And these services that you're paying for is what's kind of pushing Apple's revenue way up. It's part of the reason why they're $1 trillion company today.
Right. Well, I'm sure they get a cut, and I'm sure that they wouldn't encourage the developers to go to that model if they weren't. I'm sure the developers would love to do it and go subscription if they could, because it guarantees more money. And, as you said in the beginning, it's just going to take a reason to do it, and it's going to take software that's going to be worth it. And, we'll wait.
It's something different.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the problem is there's things out there already that could be a subscription that aren't. And, Facebook and Twitter, all the social, all these services are free, sort of, except, for the advertising.
And the scraping of your data.
Yeah, and the data. So, I mean, yeah, these companies want to make money. So however they're going to do it, they're going to do it.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with making money.
No.
Facebook would not be able to survive if it switched to a subscription model and got rid of all the other things that it's got, because all
Probably
it
not.
would take is something like Snapchat or some other brand new service to come around and going, well, okay, we are just like Facebook, except we're not going to charge you $2 to $5 a month to use our service. And we're like the way Facebook used to be,
until they're not, because Facebook was like MySpace. I mean, everything is going to be like how it used to be, and then they're like, crap, we have to make money. Hey, we have no money.
Well, I think part of it was, especially with Facebook, is that their model all along seemed to be along the lines of advertising and data scraping. There was no period that I'm aware of in Facebook's history where everything was free and you didn't have to worry about ads and you didn't have to worry about them taking your information and selling it to other people. It was just,
it was definitely like that at first. It started out to be zero. I actually remember when they went to advertising, and it was a big deal. And we started to see the little ads in the corner, and people were like, what the hell is that? I don't know. I joined Facebook when it started, or just about,
right,
for the most part. And it used to be just like it is without advertising. And, they realized they had to make money. So that's how it went.
Okay. Well, I think, the way I look at this is that I think this is a way for Apple to also have a continuing stream of revenue through services, because if they only allow the subscription models that, for for services and content that's delivered through Apple's platforms, then they're going to want their cut.
Well, they should.
Then they should.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of this content would not exist if it wasn't being consumed by people on, millions upon millions of Apple devices out there.
Yep. No.
Okay.
It has to be that way.
It does.
All right.
I think that's going to be it for this evening. Thanks to everyone who has stuck with us. I can almost guarantee, not quite, but I can almost guarantee that we will also be an Alex Jones free podcast next week, mostly because I won't be there. Next Wednesday, I'm getting together with some members of the family, and we're going to go do something fun on that Wednesday. And there's no way in hell I'm going to be back in time to
Taco Wednesday.
Yeah, Taco Tuesday. Okay. But in this case, it's on a Wednesday.
Taco Tuesday on a Wednesday. We'll enjoy that.
Yeah, we will. So there won't be a show next week, but as far as I know, there will be one the week after that, and hopefully Warren will be on. Warren, if people wanted to contact you, how would they do it? Would they do it through the magic of some social media network?
MySpace. I'm on MySpace.
You're on MySpace?
Yes. I think I am.
And Livewire or some of the other
Grokster. I'm on Grokster. Come find me on Grokster.
Yeah, that's what people should do.
How about you?
I am so easily found. Let's see. Let's make sure I got the right one up there. I am Guy at mttfgo.com. I am also Mac Parrot on the Twitters. And if for some reason you would like to call our Skype number, I don't have it on here, but I should. It is 703-436-9501. And Gaz and I discovered something very interesting about Skype that I didn't realize for years and years and years. Now, if you're on a telephone of some kind and you want to dial someone who has a Skype number directly, well, then you have to follow all of the conventions of of dialing that number from wherever it is you are to wherever it is that is. However, if you do it from Skype, you don't have to worry about any of that. You can call it directly. So in this case, if you live in Timbuktu and you wanted to call our Skype number, all you'd have to do is open up your Skype application and dial 703-436 9501. And that would get right to us. So yay. If you would like to help me with some of the stuff that I do, you can make a one-time donation via Ko-fi, ko-fi.com, where my screen name there is Mac Parrot. If you would like to become a regular subscriber to help me pay for all of this stuff that I do, and I do have costs involved, not so much with this, but with other parts, it's patreon.com/Mac Parrot. Some of the other content that I do is Guy's Daily Drive. I just recorded one today on my way to the dentist. And that is typically 2 to 4 times a week. You can watch that on YouTube, or if, darn it, I'm getting a tickle on my throat.
Yeah.
If for some reason you don't want to watch a video presentation while you're driving down the road, you can also subscribe to it through iTunes or the podcatcher of your choice. Just do a search for Guy's Daily Drive, and the audio version will magically appear at some point. Thank you all for downloading and listening and watching things like this. If you're watching this live, it is greatly appreciated. And I will see you all in about 2 weeks. You going to be there, hopefully? Or you got places to go?
I don't know. I don't know where I'll be tomorrow. I'll let you know. In 13 days.
Okay, and then we'll have to figure out why the hell I couldn't get your. Let me see if it'll work now. Nope. You're still frozen. Still frozen. Damn it.
Oh well. Well, I'm gonna go get my son out of the basement.
Okay. Well. All right, everybody. Have a great night, and we'll see you in about 2 weeks.
All right. Take care. Bye all.